slithering around and being a bother. So if Oliveira manages to get any leads, he's going to have to actually kill Maru before he gets set up on those 3 CCs.
And if there's one thing that Oliveira likes to do in TVT, it is kill people real damn fast. I mean, he's very solid at it. He got to go the full distance against Bjorn. And we're going to get right on into it over here. Spawning in the bottom right-hand side of Oceanborn, representing Weeboo Gaming, it is Oliveira.
And in the upper left, as the blue Terran for Vitality, it is Maru.
Going to be interesting to see what these guys whip out. I mean, this has been a very Terran-heavy bracket, even right from the get-go. So you can damn well bet that these players have been practicing their TVT butts off. And I mean, whoever wins this, it isn't all over just yet. You will have to play the winner of the B bracket, which right now looks like it's the whoever wins out of Serral and Hero. I mean, that is not going to be easy either.
No, but to be that much closer to actually making it to the Final Four, to having another best of 5, to kind of prove you are the better player overall. I mean, it's definitely a preferable place to be compared to the knockout bracket, which turned into best of 3s and still have a lot of amazing players down there as well. So as we said in the opener, Oliveira actually had a bit of a moment. In fact, a pretty big moment in Game 1 of yesterday's series. In fact, many of us thought that that could have been the game-ending moment. Oliveira was pushing into Maru's natural. Maru forced to pull the boys, did break out, and the game kind of went in a way that it was an exchange of army to economy, until it got too long. Maru did show that he is the better late-game player. So that's what I mean when Oliveira really has to worry a lot more, I think, than other Terrans about actually defeating him early on. Yeah, don't want to make that mistake.
No, that would have been a travesty, especially when they've both gone for fairly similar builds here with the 1-Rax Fast Expand. Difference being, I think Oliveira went for the gas first, whereas Maru opted for that Varax first, and the differences will start to come online here. I think I was going to say maybe a reactor going up for Oliveira there, does have the 50 gas available. Maru will be opting for a second Reaper with his mix of things.
I had Maru try out a 3cc in one of the games, and that was the game that I believe that he was forced to pull. It was whenever he typed that greed in this series, because especially after yesterday's result, you would think Maru is coming in as, to him, the favorite. He should have yesterday as well, but now it's just really awfully confirmed. They do have a starport now being auded on for Oliveira as Maru sharking around a couple of Reapers. Want to get in the high ground, but 2 Marines going to look to block him out. Actually, he's going to be able to overpower this Reaper and maybe even delay the command center.
Yeah, Maru's build is really weird, by the way. Going for Rax first, like Rax gas, killing that SV, it's a big deal. But Maru, I don't think Oliveira was expecting this at all, because he's done this in a weird way. He went for a second Reaper before the factory. You never do that when you go for a Rax gas build. And look how fast his 3rd CC is. His 3rd CC started before the starport as well. So Maru going for one of the greediest builds you can do and getting damage done with it. Like, that is incredible.
That is incredible. I'm just wondering if this actually is the same map we did that on. So I'm going to try and look back at it. But I asked, was he going to do that again? And yes, he absolutely is. My point was trying to get to that Maru could be feeling he really doesn't have to take any chances or really mix up his Terran build orders too much, because he does seem very much favored versus Oliveira. But he is going to use Oceanborn as that standard big map to grab a faster 3rd CC.
Yeah, it's definitely cool by him. If you're thinking about, like, what are the negatives? Well, if your opponent goes into Ravens, they're going to have them much faster than you. But you do see that Oliveira here, he's opting for this nice early medevac. And I do believe it is a Cyclone in the midst as well. But Maru does have quite a few units. He's going into a lot of Hellions here as well. Like, we could see Mech potentially, but Maru, since the beginning of time, has been so good with his bio that I'm thinking it won't be. But Oliveira turns up in this main base pretty unwelcomed by Maru and dealing a little bit of eco damage, but kind of being careful about it because he has no idea what lies waiting for him. Yeah,
he is very close to seeing the 3rd CC. He actually got that close. Some Hellions able to actually clean things up. Mobility is their strength, and it's such a small little hit squad. They did help out there. Yeah, he absolutely saw the 3rd CC. So once again, with that knowledge, kind No, it wasn't. It was not 3cc on this map. Now I'm remembering it. That was where Oliveira actually added in a second starport. They did play Oceanborn yesterday, but was it? Was it? Did he actually do that on Oceanborn? Yes, he did actually. No, this is totally right. I am goofing on myself, basically. He's going to do it again. Okay. Yeah, we caught up. We caught up. We got there. Just pretend I didn't talk for 10 seconds. But seriously, this is actually exactly what happened last time around. Just flipped the spawn positions. Oliveira is going to scout the 3cc. He's going to add a second starport. He's going to go for the push. This was really difficult for Maru to handle, but Oliveira couldn't actually get the win. Can he push it that little bit more and get the first map?
This is actually very scary for Maru. Like, even though he's ahead in supply, 6 Hellions, they do not deal the damage you need against the tanks. Yes, the Marines can absolutely get mowed down, but it's all about the tanks here. And the fact that Oliveira is going to be on 2 starports very soon, quite scary, because Maru has no idea what's outside his doorstep right now.
Oh, and oh my gosh, last game, didn't he? Yeah, no, he's continuing with the same pattern here. Once again, missing that second starport. And I did scan the main and see an absence of a third CC. So unless that was building on location this entire time, that is a little bit of a tell. But the army of Oliveira had already gotten siege up on the front. He actually pushes it a little bit farther. Target fires that tank. It goes down. SDV is actually blocking some of this. Very choked in. A lot of them going to be going down here. It might be cleaned up, but then you have to question, did Oliveira do enough damage?
I think he did a good amount of damage, but that's only wave 1 of this push. I mean, Ravens have stayed alive here, and the longer they stay alive, that is so darn good for Maru. But Maru, fairly unfazed with all this, it feels like. He's going to get out his own Vikings now, switched over the starport to that reactor, but soon Oliveira will outnumber him in the skies. It's just, those are big upgrades coming online. That's a huge investment here from Maru.
Yeah, and Oliveira's aren't really getting that much of an air superiority situation here. He does literally win it right now, but with the defender's advantage for Maru, if he is building his own Vikings, there's that questionable time, the period where Vikings of Oliveira are coming across the map in which, you know, especially with a couple of auto turrets helping out, it could be problematic, but he lands the Vikings this time around. Tanks once again sieged up, SCVs pulled once more. Once again, 8 SCVs go down. Oh, tank also fired, and actually this could be a lot more than that. Finally, all the tanks are gone from the field. Oliveira's push has officially ended? Question mark. He's continuing to rally forward. Liberator in the main base at a perfect time. Maru clearly distracted. So many SCVs going down now.
Yeah, certainly is. And Oliveira behind all this. This wasn't a Giga all-in. Third base on location here, Zombie Grub. 1-1 has started for him, and a single Hellion getting to spot exactly when it went down. Maru's not down and out, but make no mistake, he did not want to take any of that damage. You see a little bit of a sigh there, being like, oh darn, okay, I've got to work my way back into this game, but he's done it so many times now that I can't remember the most famous time in my head. Yeah,
there's so many, actually. You're absolutely right. I mean, maybe the comeback versus Cure in a GSL, where I think Cure was up 2-0, that pops to mind, but that's like a comeback and a best of. He also had so many comebacks in that series. It's just what he's known for, and we're in a very similar place to yesterday where it took a little longer. It was more of like 1.5 fights kind of situation, but Oliveira does have a really good SCV lead, building his third CC on location. He is behind on those upgrades, but the difference between this game and the last is that Maru was, I think, already kind of pushing for some type of counterattack. He found Oliveira's retreating army, and then he was able to use that to propel onto the third of Oliveira and cancel the fourth. If that had not happened yesterday, that could have been the Oliveira win, and it could be the situation here today. Scan reveals Maru's army is actually mostly back at home, at least the tanks are, I should say.
I mean, Oliveira does have to be careful, because there's going to be a window here where he's 1-1 with combat shields against none of that. And remember, Oliveira has actually gone into Raven production very early now, utilizing that second starport he had, which is important, but it takes a while for that energy to really get online. So Maru looking to even the trade here. Does kill a sensor tower. They're quite expensive, close to a tanking cost, and that is a lot of bio here, but there's still one tank in the back that has a dream to do here, and that is a lot of bio, just getting a little bit of damage done, but not really what he needed.
No, the Sim City in this game ends up helping Oliveira. Without the tanks Maru brought over yesterday, he wasn't able to take advantage of the situation, can't like get the SCV killed on the building command center, and then it just becomes really too difficult to get that back on. It was, you know, really what helped him bring it back into the game, and he's unable to do that here. He does not cancel the fourth CC. Now Maru, Macro God, does have his own 4th CC finishing. Despite the SEV damage that he took, he does still have much faster upgrades as well. In fact, it's getting a little silly. His 2-2 is edging closer to 80% done. Okay, yeah, now finally 2-2 starts up for Oliveira, but that's a considerable gap of time where we are heading into a stage where Marines are obviously going to be important. No one's playing Mech here, although they both are continuing to kind of edge closer to more of the air game, like a late game TVT. We're building up to that point.
It was super weird. Like, this game's had a few little twists for me. So, the build by Maru, really cool. You said he's done it before. Still a very nice build. He was so good about getting the armory despite all that madness that was happening at his front door, meaning his upgrades are very far ahead. Oliveira switched into starport so early. Like, getting your 3rd starport kind of as your 4th is landing.
Yeah. Super
early. So, despite him not truly going really killer on the Ravens early on, he's going to have so many for this next fight that you do start to worry if you are a bit of a Maru fan.
Absolutely. This is kind of technically, like really, if this all turns out to plan, how you would want to win a TVT. You get ahead, and then when you know that TVT ends up in these long comebacks and these long games, and especially Maru, you want to get that air superiority and actually push that as fast as possible as well, again, before Maru can get to the similar situation. Now, Maru makes sure to have a decent number of Vikings, but he's not going to have nearly as many Ravens, so it's going to become a positioning battle. Can Maru's Vikings find Oliveira's Ravens before the interference matrix come down?
So many Ravens in the sky, and he's producing 2 at a time. Like, this is so early. If this was opposite to a player, it's opposite of Beyond, right? Going Ravens way before you actually kind of needed them, but I think that's going to be a mega surprise for Maru. And Maru now just switching into the starports, which is when you normally do it. 2-2 is not yet finished for Oliveira, but with these kind of numbers, and it's going to be anti-armor missile available too, that is all over that army right now, and that 4th base, it is not long for this world.
No, it is not. Maru having to make the decision to evacuate, but not soon enough. Not able to save the SCVs, not able to save a handful of tanks either. He's going to have to concede that 4th, and a lot of damage beyond that, but still believing that he can make this game work. He's not going to tap out yet, not when he's over 150 supply, not when he still has 3 base, 6 gases, but it is looking grim. Oliveira's army is extremely powerful, even though the army supplies are very similar. The compositions can shine in different ways.
Oliveira has to be very careful that he doesn't spread himself too thin. Maru knows where he is with that scan, and look where he's going, straight down the middle of the map. He still has some defenses behind, but Ravens make short work. Nice unsieges there, very quick, but Maru might get on top of the production way faster than Oliveira.
Yeah, that's not a lot of tanks helping out here. I mean, there's a little bit of buffer with the SCVs, I suppose, on both sides, actually. Oliveira, not having his tank siege initially, does lose a chunk of his Marines, finally takes out that last tank from Maru, but Maru, he's marching towards the main base. Do we have any tanks popping? Can Oliveira hold on to his production?
I mean, that's the factory right there, Zombie Rob. I don't know where his second one is, but tanks are going to be shocked as they exit that factory. You see that, just boom, dead. Supplies very close, but Maru still producing, and his production isn't dying on impact either. 3-3, very close finishing, and Oliveira's going back home. Yeah. I'm not sure that's the play.
I mean, I'm not sure either, but he's got to make the decision and just make it, you know, commit to it, because any waffling would be disastrous. So he is going to pull back, but most importantly, he is rebuilding to the left side. Exactly. He had a lot of money. He read the situation as fast as pretty much possible and decided, yeah, the main base is gone. My natural is gone. That absolutely sucks, but I could still play this game out because I also did damage to him. But the production is the heart of the Terran, and Maru just basically stabbed it, but Oliveira is still pumping it for some reason, somehow, and it's all about that left side now. It's all about that base. It's all about the production. Unfortunately, upgrades are not going to happen for Oliveira. In a situation where Maru has 3-3, Oliveira's Marines kind of suck.
They do kind of suck, and remember, he's not able to produce right now for a long time. Orbitals have gone down, and I mean, Oliveira is out on the map, but Maru's been expanding behind this as well. His production absolutely untouched here. Oliveira with some scans just to find out what the situation is, and right now, Maru just absolutely thrust himself more than back into this game, still dealing lots of eco damage as well.
I mean, he's actually favored right now. The only thing Oliveira really has going for him is, well...
Ravens.
Yeah, okay, so here we go. We've got Ravens, we got a planetary to fall back on eventually, should it be needed, and we do have a +2 tank attack. So he is going to be able to demolish Maru's Marines if his tanks can get involved.
Maru's been so good about seeing the interference matrix and I don't want to say baiting it, but unsieging before it even hits. So good about that so many times in this game. And Oliveira's macro, it's good on the minerals, but look at that gas. Like, he wanted to be spending so much gas right now on air, on Ravens, the +3/+3, but it's all being stopped. And now Maru with a gigantic army, and he's the one with a lot of Ravens now as well. So problematic for Oliveira, but that is a lot of tanks that Maru just kind of ran into in the back there.
Yeah, this might just be too much from Maru with those 3-3 upgrades. One tank still shelling away for Oliveira. Vikings land for a desperate attempt to hold, but this will not be it. Oliveira has to tap out in a game that looked absolutely beautiful for him. Maru made the exact right move, forced the base trade.
Yeah, if there's one thing that when I watch Maru, he does more than any other Terran, is he stops muling and he's all about scans. Finding out where his opponent is and just realizing if you're making it so I have only one choice, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be real quick about it. He got into the natural, got into the main. Yes, his fourth died, but it bought him so much time, and he did that scan seeing where the army was, and he's like, unless you greet me right here, right now, I'm just going to go, go, go. He's been so good about the interference matrix as well, stopping 4 tanks from shooting here out of the 5, and his army better upgraded. So well played. You could see it on Oliveira's face, like, oh my goodness, how did you win from this situation? I think that's exactly what went through his mind.
Absolutely. You know, I think he knew the problem as well. When you do have that superior starport count, one of the things you are afraid of is being outpositioned. So I think Oliveira was probably expecting a type of desperate base trade, but perhaps not as fast and as much, right? So he did not have nearly enough time to get the tanks out that would have defended his production, because seriously, like 3 tanks on the high ground, and I don't think Maru breaks through. He still gets the upgrades. It's still a messy game, but the production would have lived. So yeah, the game starts off in a position where Maru does lose a little bit too much. You know, he has 3 CC, so it's absolutely recoverable. But then as we went on to the game, Oliveira was all about just powering up to the ultimate late game army. He knew that if he was swift enough, if he got to the right technology, Maru would not be able to hold on just with tanks. So this looked so freaking good for Oliveira, but his tanks were not producing. This is what I wanted to check, but the game was so hectic I really couldn't, right? I think he did have a second factory in the 3rd base, but his ability to produce them, or his desire to produce them, was rather low. He was spending so much of it on Ravens.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those situations where it's like, he was so all about killing that 4th base and thinking, oh, I'm great now, right? And you could see that he was kind of positioned out there, ready to move forward for the 3rd. And Maru was just like, you've just given me a highway down the middle of the map. Let's like just rock it. Because the Terran armies, they are slow. Even if you've got Ravens that can absolutely bust things open by making the tanks redundant, it's still slow about getting things done. And Maru's army was very mobile with that number of Marines.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're into the second game. This is actually just deja vu, guys. Their second map was also Site Delta yesterday. In the top left for Weibo Gaming, down a game, he is Oliveira.
And spawning over in the bottom right, the master of TVT, the GOAT Terran of all time, it is Maru.
The greatest of all time, Terran all time.
I like to say all time.
No, but I think that's absolutely a statement I think you would not be able to argue. I mean, maybe
How
as
can you?
An innovation fan, I got to get in here and be like, well, actually, the
Arctos is
consistency
probably out there right now. In fact, no. Even he wouldn't argue against Maru. I mean, he's just been there right from the beginning. The level that he's held for like the last 6 years. And I mean, we've had times where Terran have been weak, and I know there's a lot of Brodosses and Zergs will be like, what are you on about? Terrans have always been busted. But no, there's been times where it's like there has been one diamond in the rough, one Terran that has been continuously making top 8s when no other Terran could. Top 4s, you know, getting to finals and stuff. Basically stopped Terran from getting buffed. Damn you, Maru. But yeah, it's Maru. It really has been all about it. And this is what made Oliveira's win in that last championship so damn impressive against a guy like Maru. It's just, he's the king of Terran.
Yeah, you got to balance that out, you know. Beyond made the mistake of making 3-Rack Trooper look too good. Nerf. Got to balance it, man. But it's why the Katowice run for Oliveira was so much extra special because, yes, every single player that he faced, it was a question mark as if he could win. He definitely came in as underdogs during a lot of those, but it was one of those, well, we know he's good, like he could continue. But then bam, 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 Zerg, Protoss, and then Terran. And that last Terran, that finals, was Maru, who has a godly TVT, insane win record in it, and usually is completely unfazed. So it was really the perfect situation for Oliveira to be able to come in with that momentum and that hype around him and then take advantage of Maru's also somewhat nerves he has talked about. But it was wonderful, and Oliveira has struggled to get the same results against Maru since then.
Maru doing a similar build here, but he went for his second gas far earlier. So it was Rax gas into a second Reaper, and he's been forcing that first SCV to not build the command center on location, so kind of forced it over to the right side here, then just gunning across the map to deal with it, just to slow down his opponent a little bit. Very fun, because what Maru's showcasing here is what looks like, from Oliveira's perspective, maybe the exact same build. But right now, it's absolutely not. His tech's going to come online faster. It's not as greedy. And I'm just wondering what he's going to do with it. Because, yeah, 2 Reapers, that's scary in this situation. But the Hellion will save the day.
Yeah. Good control there from Oliveira. Very close losing his Reaper, but is actually even on top of this Reaper. Went into the main base. It did get the scouts, you know, for the time that it got in there, which still wouldn't have seen like the Tech Lab edition, for instance, but it did get a scout. It wanted to kind of be more of a bother in the main if it could have. C'est la vie. Starport's now on the way for Maru, obviously much more delayed than Oliveira's, which is already building that medevac. Oliveira going to get in Maru's face. I think last time this was played, Site Delta, we had Oliveira open similarly, and then he got a taste of his own medicine. Maru found his medevac out in the field, so it's just, the beats are so similar between these two games so far, and it's just a question of if Oliveira can improve that little bit. Last game, it seemed like it was, right into those Ravens was fantastic, but Maru just figured out the right way to deal with that, didn't he? And let's see if he figures out how to deal with this. Oliveira with the little medevac push up against someone who's got a Cyclone and a Viking on the way. Needs to be very, very careful.
The Viking is really smart, by the way. Like, when you know your starports later because the build you've gone for, because you go for that second Reaper before the factory kind of thing, it's going to be later. You're not going to be the aggressor. So getting that Viking, which is primarily a defensive unit, this can absolutely catch you off guard. And Oliveira is quite fortunate that that medevac did not get locked onto, or that Maru chased it down.
Yeah, exactly. There was a dedication when he dropped in completely, but the 2 Cyclones did not get the medevac, and the Viking was not going to chase that down. So Oliveira able to keep that alive, which honestly, with the setup that Maru has, I think is kind of the goal. Otherwise, I don't think you really expect much. And now it's just going to be used more for a little bit of a map control kind of threat around the map as well, not make Maru, move out too eagerly, should he have to worry about this. But yeah, didn't get to do anything in the early game. We got Stim on the way already for Oliveira. His 3rd CC is done, but Maru gonna go for the second starport, which I feel like he did last time.
Yeah, in this situation, it's kind of funny. Like, a very fast 3rd CC. It's going to be Oliveira going for the double engineering bay nice and early. Like, his build's far more regular, but also just, it works, right? So even though he's behind in supply, Maru's going to be going for a push with a faster 3rd by the looks of it.
Well, this Marine just got a great scout, actually.
It sees everything.
Yeah, it's all the double engineering bays guys and no second starport, too. So that was kind of like the one worry I think you have, other than just like the kind of normal TVT Oliveira is doing. No, Maru is going for the 2 starport play. On site Delta, this makes some sense, but it is with the 3rd CC, so it's not as dedicated. And Oliveira is not quite aware of that. Does get pushed back, but once again, saving the medevac.
He sees it, right?
That was close. Yeah, he does see it, yep.
Yeah, so that's pretty damn big. So Oliveira knows that he's against a 2 starport push, or 2 starport at least, but with a 3rd CC. Double armory from Maru.
Well, okay. Didn't really expect Mech, to be honest, but
that's cool.
That is cool to see. It's going to be a very limited factory production, as you can tell. You got 2 starports, not 2 factories or 3 factories, Double armory as well is kind of greedy. I mean, this is a lot of tech units, so the quality is very high, but the quantity is very low, where Oliveira is playing the complete opposite. He thinks he's actually being pushed. He didn't realize that was, it was built when it was. He couldn't tell, so he doesn't realize. Now he does. Fortunately, that Hellion Scout, very necessary.
seeing that gas there is quite big. Like, if you're really in the zone, you can be like, getting that gas so early can be, you know, indicative of Mech, but given how off the radar it has been in recent times, and especially when you're up against Maru. But I do like the fact that Oliveira did not go into super quick Viking production after the Ravens. He's gone for medevacs. Now, if there's one thing that Maru can fall apart against with this setup, it is drops into the main, into the natural, that kind of thing. So he's got to be very careful because he has absolutely banked on not taking any damage with this build. But what you see Oliveira doing here is exactly what Maru does not want.
Yeah, I think you repaired that medevac from earlier too, so that's finally getting to highlights. And we got 4 SCVs already going down, just a little bit of a bother, distraction. Any amount of units that come over to help against this are no longer on that third. So that's really the top of a Mech player's mind, is how much do they have and what directions are they coming in from and what quantity as well. Okay, this isn't too much. I'd really like to deal with this quickly and precisely. It's about the front line. So Maru did just scan the front, realizing that he could be pushed. He does have tanks still positioned, Ravens ready to go, some chokes on the map to help him out as well, and Oliveira is not going to push the issue. In fact, he's really not going to push the issue. Very limited bio time here as he already adds on 2 starports.
I love the fact that he took the guys, or the barracks, off the reactors there, realizing, okay, I'm against Mech. I'm not going to rush into this. Like, the timing window is kind of closing on when you can kill a Mech player before it gets going, but I tell you what, Zombie Grub, that is quite a ballsy push there. I mean, he's going to be up against 4 Ravens. He did limit the Viking count pretty tremendously here, and it's going to be Turret City going down here, but that's a lot of stim bio, taking out a lot of the Ravens before they can do much, but I think Maru absolutely slams this down way harder than Oliveira expected.
Yeah, that looks like such a promising drop. You're on top of their production. You're still abusing their own choke against them because of the Sim City, but the Ravens really make a difference. Oliveira is like, I got in there, I fully unloaded it, I had tanks, why did this happen? Why is he like this? Unfortunately, just did not account for the power of the Ravens, or their correct positioning, I suppose, just only a couple of seconds too late. It was almost a bait, you know. I don't think Maru meant to let him in, but it almost turned into a bait. Oliveira now losing all types of pressure for, a limited time. He'll get back up to a supply that can pressure, but right now Maru's like, oh yeah, I got a lot of units. Like, I can feel really comfortable on 3 bases now.
Do you know what super sucks about this for Oliveira? The fact that he did that scan where he saw that second starport, that messed him up so much this game. Like, not realizing what the second starport was for. It was for Ravens for Maru, which, thinking it was a push initially, being like, oh, you're going to push me, get in the medevacs, doing this, dropping, it's like 4 Ravens to deal with all that stuff. This is just very cute stuff out of Maru, and his upgrades are really bang on point as well. Like, as a Terran, when you're bio, we're getting to a situation here that's just scary. 4 base Mech. At some point, an army's going to march across the map, and it's a question of what do you do? Because it feels so darn scary going up against this sort of powerhouse army. Yeah,
so, you still have bio as the bio versus Mech player, but you're going to be looking a lot to the skies eventually, because, that's going to be really the main problem. The bio army, unless it gets one hell of a surround, is going to become inferior to the Mech army, particularly when the Mech actually has really good upgrades. So usually you start thinking about the skies, you use your bio on the ground for a little bit of pressure, a little bit of threat. Maybe you do delay the 4th CC a little bit, but, Oliveira lost that drop. He had already committed to the starports. He wasn't going to remax particularly quickly. So the skies are kind of where we want to head to for Oliveira, while also, again, delaying bases. But say he gets there, who is better in the late game, sky versus sky? Maru. That's just kind of a fact.
Yeah, nobody's better than Maru in late game when it comes to DT. But one thing I will say, Oliveira's making a lot of the really good calls here. I think he's got a fusion core out for ranged liberators, but if he doesn't, that's a little bit of a problem. But he's going to be on 5 starports soon, getting the second armory online to get upgrades as well. So absolutely gearing up for air. He's also consuming the map here, Zombie Grub.
Yeah.
And these are all the things that he needs to do right now. The only thing that I can be like, maybe the 3-3 isn't truly necessary on the bio right now. The gas could be used elsewhere, but he's so rich that he can do anything he wants.
Yes, Oliveira does still have the upgrade lead and the economy lead and the general kind of map presence lead. That's what you get on his side of this particular matchup. The question is whether or not you can push it to a victory, and that's the difficult part. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with that on the ladder. Actually being able to defeat the Mech army. And what Maru can do as well is that technically he could have tried to push, like max out on a tank Raven army and try to push down the middle and go for that. He could also just turtle. He got to a 4th CC almost like too easily, and his 5th was also extremely fast, only now being pressured. He's going to be able to position his units over there to stop that, trying to get into the main base too, but Maru with extra missile turrets covering that backside, he's just not going to be broken easily, that's for sure. And I wonder how Oliveira is thinking about dealing with this. Eventually, you'd expect push comes to shove, but again, Maru could also just exhaust the guy. He
could, and he's using those Marines from early. That was also a really cute move by him. Just making it, like, not super obvious he was going for Mech, but also being a good defensive unit, right? And come in here, snipe a few units, get to see what's going down. And Fusion Core coming online now for Oliveira. And, like, not too late at all, because I don't think there's any Liberators on the field, but I am a bit worried about his supply, because he's maxed out right now. That's a lot of bio, and as this game goes on, it's not going to be the best unless you can get the right fight for it. And right now, it's just going to be about CC City. Just both spamming it, because eventually the 200 cap really limits what you can do as the bio player with 88 SCVs.
Yes, yeah, that's something we're going to have to pay attention to as the game goes on. Everyone is getting all types of upgrades, including some building upgrades, scan each other's army positioning. I gotta say, as you know, versus Mech, having them already on 5 bases, again, seamless between the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th, is extremely scary. You really wanted to have more hiccups so that they would be a little less aware of your positioning and you're scanning everywhere, but Maru does seem a little surprised here. Anti-armor missile does come down, but he's pushing back, forced to cancel his command center. Oliveira not going to be able to push much farther, however. There must be a tank depth. Even those Thors with some good upgrades actually are kind of chunky, and well, Oliveira is going to take the position while he can, and then look elsewhere for more damage.
I didn't mind that for either player, weirdly enough. Even though Oliveira's supply dropped quite a bit, he can now remax on units that he really wants to take care of business. But tanks are always useful in the mix. I mean, he is against Ravens, and Maru's been so good about eliminating them from the fight, but he does need more air. And right now, no more Marines in the mix for him. He's just going to pump out Ravens, Vikings, tanks, Marauders, and they're all very decently upgraded. But Maru, he's also marching across the map, and look how good he is about just finding the right moment. He has to be careful though, but the bio's coming in very weirdly here, kind of skew with some at the bottom, some at the top, and Maru takes a clean victory here in the middle of the map. And I know Taser's brought up chess earlier, but Maru has taken control of the center of the board.
This was not quite it for Oliveira. His army was injured from earlier fights and earlier stims, and it was disjointed. I actually think there might have been a potential in the concave, but it was not that. And now Maru's push, it has come to shove, and it's just shoving right through the middle of the map. Oliveira unable to stop Maru from reaching over to his side of the map into his natural, covering the 3rd as well. Maru in a definite lead in this game, and Oliveira is just desperate.
And look how much of the map Maru's taken behind this. Not only is he on 5 bases, he's on 7 here, Zombie Grub. He is macroing behind all of this, getting the perfect army together. There's no Liberators in sight. I mean, there's no air in sight right now, which is super weird to think about. Even BC's 3 at a time coming out with the Yamato cannon. This is great stuff out of Maru, and this is exactly how you should be playing Mech.
Yeah, this was seamless in almost every way, from the bases to the push. It wasn't absolutely perfect. It wasn't a literally perfect game, but it was just so clean. And this is very familiar to yesterday again. You know, not only the maps, but just the tone that is being set. Ultra close first game that arguably Oliveira should have won. Second game, you know, fair enough, but then, oh, what's that? Oh, no, okay, Maru was actually just dominating. And then the third game was, I believe, not very close last time. At least it is a different map, but same position for Oliveira, down 0-2 versus Maru. Maru has all the chances that he would ever want against Oliveira to actually close this series out.
Yeah, I'm always so impressed when I watch Maru, especially when he does something a little bit weird and wacky, but he makes it look like he's played it every day of his life, like up to this point. Just so many things about his mech play that were good, and it can catch your opponent very off guard. And honestly, Oliveira, the amount of bio he had on the map, and I know he loves bio, but you need to start trading that out. You need to start getting more Liberators out. Liberators actually destroy Thors, especially with the range upgrade. They just get on top, blitz out everything, and when you get that economic lead, with the bio and tank early on, and you have the extra bases, that's when you need to start making the switch. Trade out, taking the 5th base way harder than what he did, but he just kind of kept it all there, just being on the map. So definitely maybe respecting his opponent a little bit too much, and maybe just not playing Mech all that often.
Yeah, against Mech, right? Yeah. No, I think that would certainly be the case. It's not that he hasn't played Mech, versus Mech for almost the entirety of StarCraft II's career, but as far as it goes, the last 2 years, I want to say TVT very limited on Mech, very, very, very. And Maru just played it beautifully. Oliveira just really not having the best lead up to face a Mech player, honestly, too. Again, that mishap with the scout and the starport that led him to believe to be defensive. Then the drop in the main not actually going as well as it looked. So once again, he's going to be on his last life. We're on Alcyone this time around for what could be the final game. In the top right for Weibo Gaming, he is Oliveira.
And in the bottom left-hand side, representing Vitality, it is the Dream Terran. It is Maru.
Dream retired about 2017.
He did. He retired a long time ago. Got super buff as well, He was also really sick. Yeah, he got super buff. I mean,
okay.
that seems to be the StarCraft II gamer thing, right?
I know, right?
They get retired, get buff. As long as they're Korean, they do that.
Well, yeah, French Yogo and caster. He's actually, he's a model now.
No, really?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
I mean, all those French dudes like Coca, they're all kind of handsome. Oh.
Anyway.
But anyway, I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but Maru was doing that build, like with the 2 Reapers. He kind of made it look like he was going to do the same thing as he was doing in game 1, but did it totally different afterwards. And those kind of builds are so smart, because in a high-pressure situation like this, you often go into autopilot of what you should do or should have done differently. Like, if there's a dream situation where you're against a Terran going Mech, you don't have that second engineering bay. You are like just +1. You play so damn aggressive before it gets going, but all these moves were already in order. You saw how early those engineering bays were for Oliveira. He was just not prepped and ready for that at all. Yeah. I loved what we saw.
Yeah, and what's really insane to think about is just how small of the difference was on the scans. So as we have 2 factory expands here on Alcyone, I want to just highlight in the first game, Maru scans the main because that's on a popular map for 2 starport, so he misses the starport, but he still deals with it anyways. In the second game, you would scan on-site Delta exactly like Oliveira does, because you don't want to scan the main. The natural is just 9 times out of 10 where they hide, quote-unquote, the starport. For Maru, whether it was intentional or not, he did play into that scan position to, again, kind of deceive Oliveira into thinking it was an actual 2-star port play. You don't scan the main to see if there's a 3rd CC. You're scanning the kind of main natural to see if there's a 2nd starport. So that's just also really cool, assuming it was intentional.
I mean, if it was intentional, that's some like
Big
200
brain.
IQ Maru, you damn puppet master over here. I've always felt that Maru's so good at making his opponents do what he wants them to do, which in a lot of ways he kind of did that game, right? Like getting the bunker ready, thinking the push was coming. But this game, very different to the ones we've seen prior. Both players did opt for a 2-gas opening. Oliveira, on his side of things, went very quickly into a reactor, I think after his first Reaper. So he's going to have a lot of units very quickly.
Ooh.
Now, that starport, not super early. You can't do it super early because he's spending so much gas on the Reapers. But it's going to be a good chunk of units arriving very quickly at Maru's front door. So he has to be so careful about how he's positioned, because if that Cyclone gets picked off nice and early, Zombie Grub, we could be looking at a whirlwind of a game.
Yes, it could snowball pretty heavily. If Maru doesn't raise the depot in the main, it's an extra problem. But you have so many Reapers, too. If they're all left alive, they just jump into the main. Now, this actually, I haven't seen it in a little while, it feels like. But this multiple Reaper Hellion opener, it can be nasty. Cyclones are glass cannons, but this one's going to be picked up. It's not even going to be involved in the fight. Ooh. Let's see if the medevac sees it, how it responds. It will find the Hellions. 3 Hellions often alludes to also the 5 Reapers, which maybe we're going to try and jump into the main base, but okay, yeah, just a little off on the timing here. That's exactly what they do. Quick reaction from Maru, but just not enough units. Grenades flying every which way. These 3 Reapers now will try and go after some SCVs, but now out too. They're low, they're dying, they're not getting the SCVs. The Hellions in the natural also not really picking up too much. In total, 4 SCVs and a mule. That's, I don't think what Oliveira wanted.
If he knew how fresh those 2 mules that he got, though, he's going to be smiling a tiny bit more. Because, I mean, that's a good 400 minerals that you slow down on your opponent. So Maru's not going to be super satisfied, but he's definitely taken an edge here. Because if he could have stopped that from happening, he'd be in perfect position here. Maru's making a Reaper. That's got to be an error here, surely. Unless he's just trying to sneak it into the main or something like that. But even the greatest will feel the nerves on this big stage.
Yeah, I guess so. So the counterattack is here. I mean, this was something that Maru had available to him as far as harassment, but actually bringing all of the units over. Now, great start, I think, for Oliveira, catching that 1 Cyclone. In fact, Maru's 2 Cyclones are very injured. His medevac is extremely injured. He's continuing to push, but it's like, you know, even you only have so much micro. They only have so much health. And Oliveira will hold. But yeah, Maru had the possibility to do a little bit of a counterattack. He had the possibility of going for a little harassment. He still does have the superior army supply, but obviously not enough to actually push on through. 3rd CC for Oliveira is about to finish. 2nd starport once again for Maru.
Can we have a look at the unit counting station? Because I'm wondering what kind of tech. So Maru, 2 Ravens, 1 tank, 1 Cyclone still remaining. I mean, yes, Oliveira's been a little bit later to the tanks, but he did invest a lot in that early skirmish with the Reapers. This could be a little bit scary. Maru's going to get a very good scout with that Reaper, so maybe it was intentional all along. We'll get to see that there are extra barracks being made, but not early. That's enough for him to know that there is a 3rd CC, but I dare say he might have seen just a glimpse of it over there, and Oliveira is left seeing this, and he's like, this could be a 3rd on location, could be 2nd start, but could be a hell of a lot of things, Zombie Grub.
Yeah.
A bit scary. Maru's going to get a very good scout with that Reaper, so maybe it was intentional all along. We'll get to see that there are extra barracks being made, but not early. That's enough for him to know that there is a 3rd CC, but I dare say he might have seen just a glimpse of it over there, and Oliveira is left seeing this, and he's like, this could be a 3rd on location, could be 2nd start, but could be a hell of a lot of things, Zombie Grub.
Yeah, and in this case, again, main scan, almost 100% on Alcyone. It's not going to see the natural where the starport actually is. And Maru is going to be, at this point, very much hiding. So last game, it kind of was that confusion that still added a lot to the pacing of the game. That Oliveira was like, oh, shoot, like I'm worried about that. Now it's just Oliveira being in the dark, which is also a problem. So he was a little confused last game, but kind of was able to recover. Now he just doesn't know.
I really like what Oliveira was doing there, just having a Marine out in every direction just to know where Maru might be. But then Maru's like, you know what, I'll pick up a Cyclone here, just deal with those little scouts so I can get the right position on you. And remember, Oliveira now knows that he's being aggressive, but he doesn't exactly know what's happening. And this Liberator could cause a lot of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. That main scan still, again, stalled that lack of 3rd CC that would, unless you're a crazy person, would be up there instead of on location. Maru, with the map control and the confidence, does take his 3rd on location to make up for the timing difference. 2nd factory on the way. Maru liking how Mech worked out last map, and to do it again here in Alcyone.
Yeah, I mean, that tank has a big role to play here defending this. He gets to see the main, gets to see the 2 engineering bases as well, which is actually a really big deal there. And Maru with the Liberator at the natural, the Cyclones are over in the main dealing with this drop. And Maru, he doesn't just do one thing at once. And here he scans at the 3rd base, gets to see, okay, you're kind of ready there. I don't want to throw away everything that I have, because maybe with the next wave of Vikings, that's when I can really take you to Boomtown.
This is very worrying. The Mech player is able to find fantastic positioning on the side of Oliveira, meaning that those tanks are going to be very comfortable sieging up, especially when there's some interference matrix taking out Oliveira's tanks. All 3 are gonna? Yeah, well, actually, a 3rd one is up to the top side. That means the 4th one is still disabled. 5th one pops out. A little bit of a concave here for Oliveira as he also lands the Vikings to try and break out right here. And I think he might just barely have enough. Indeed, he does. The Liberator in the sky, able to be taken out thanks to some reinforcing Vikings. And Maru actually might have overextended right there. Oh, there was a fake stim. I didn't even notice that one. Sorry.
Wow, so he's been totally trying to sell this as something else the whole time. But I tell you what, that was an insane hold by Oliveira. The fact that he actually did that after the fight initially looked bad for him, that was clean. Because eliminating those tanks, a huge, huge deal. Now, was it 3 Vikings in here?
Yes.
We call this the duck drop in my town.
You can put an SCV in there and repair the Vikings while it's in the medevac.
He totally could. He totally could. Plus one's going to come online as well with Combat Shield. This game, of all of them, I mean, I was going to say of all of them so far, but he looked pretty damn good in one of the previous games. But this game's actually looking very decent for Oliveira. If there's one chance to break Mech early, it is in this scenario. After dealing that much damage, taking out all the Ravens that he worked so hard to build up as well.
Right, yeah, exactly. That kind of turned around really quickly. Maru was in this position where he was the mech player, but he was having map control. He was constantly moving on the map. He was constantly taking his base, and he kind of could have chosen his fight. Now he did, but it ended up being the incorrect one. That just happens in StarCraft. But it went from thinking, wow, the pacing of this game doesn't look great for a bio player, to, oh, okay, we're kind of back to the usual, right? Oliveira is his fourth faster. His upgrades are faster. He will have a higher supply. It just won't be as full of quality like Maru's. But we're also on a different map than Site Delta, guys. So while Site Delta ended up working out beautifully for Maru for a lot of reasons, Alcyone is very large. You know, Oliveira's going to have some trouble getting all of his reinforcements on the front lines if he ever does find an opening. And Maru, yeah, might have to expand a little farther out, but that's why he's going to be extra careful probably on a map like this.
Yeah, certainly. I do like what Oliveira's doing, though. Opening up the rock paths, just allowing his mobile army to move around the map a little bit better, a little bit easier. But still, his main goal should be not allowing a Terran to take a fifth easily. Even a fourth. If you can slow that down, you are feeling so good. Maru will be moving down to the south here to take this base, which, you know, it's kind of awkward to get over there. But Oliveira, he's been all on it, moving down there with a pretty darn big army. Remember, Raven count got absolutely smashed on both sides, but Maru's tank count is still looking pretty healthy and scary. That's a hard one to break through.
Yeah, that choke with some Sim City as well is going to be difficult, but Oliveira's going to go for it. Some factories or whatever that is actually came down for a little more Sim City, forcing the Marines into a choke. The tanks getting some wonderful shots on the Marines, but Oliveira still has more army behind that. His tanks are sieged up and ready to fight. Some Marines ended up living, able to contribute as well, going after the command center. Some missed rally is a little awkward as Oliveira loses a tank he wish he hadn't, but Oliveira might have found the weak point of Maru.
Absolutely. This was perfect. This is exactly what he needed to do. Break him as he's trying to take another base. And I tell you what, Maru did everything he could there, but Oliveira with just too much firepower. He does have to be careful, though. All his medevacs have been sniped out the sky, and he has been good about transitioning here. He's getting his third starport online. 2-2 just finishing up for him as well. But he's not totally out of the woods yet getting a victory here. He does have to be careful. And how does he get these units home?
Yeah, I think for a mech player right now, oh, and Vikings find a couple of tanks there. For a mech player, you acknowledge that wasn't ideal, of course, but you know that if your third CC isn't broken, you have probably a chance to try and remax again. The difference would be that Oliveira is just, you know, he's skyrocketing with the economy, so he's feeling really the momentum. It is a little unfortunate that the AI worked against Oliveira there. I think he realized if he had broken the tinier rocks that he just did, that wouldn't have happened, but he did still end up breaking Maru, getting the fourth CC, forcing a delay on that, and is now sharking around for another opportunity.
It was Maru blocking with engineering waves, by the way. He was so quick. He was so quick to try and do it. It was actually insane by him. I just saw on the production tab, by the way, that there was like 2 orbitals coming online for Maru. Oh, I say that, but a huge push coming in here from Oliveira, and I don't think this is it, Zombie Grub. There are a lot of tanks here, kind of out of vision, and all of a sudden Maru takes a big supply lead here. Oh, when I say big, a little bit of one, but any little edge that he can get right now, setting up this 4th base, that's huge. But Maru, I think he's already got like 4 orbitals already, maybe 5 orbitals here. He's definitely getting ready for the late game before the late game's here, and he can make 2 more over here. That's actually pretty nutty when you think about it.
No, it absolutely is, and that's a very unfortunate second fight there from Oliveira, who I think the eyes went kind of wide when he saw the tanks were a little farther behind. When the Vikings had landed, he was like, oh my gosh, I can kill the Vikings. But the Vikings did a very appropriate job. I mean, really kudos to Maru using the flexibility of Viking air to ground. He used them to get the tanks, and then their chunky enough that they were able to escape back to the tanks before the Marines could fire. And then Oliveira just, he overextended. He's going to try and get something done as far as controlling the mass expansions by sending some Marines left, right, and center, but Maru's already on top of it. The supplies being even, the situation is a little concerning, but Oliveira does have Liberators on the way. I wonder what the Viking count is between the two of them.
Yeah, so if you're wondering why Maru's adding on Thors right now, it's because he's scared of the Libs and scared of losing the air control. But the fact that he comes over and he's taken a 6th at the same time as his 5th, when he's kind of been on the ropes a little bit this game, Maru's wild. He really is wild, but I love how he does it. Like, once he gets expanding, he just doesn't stop. Now, this kind of situation for Oliveira, even though I feel this game has slipped away a little bit for him, having the Liberators so early here and getting the Fusion Core online, this is what I like out of him. This is what he needs to be doing.
Finally kills the command center. Was shy of doing that on the 4th earlier on, but as we've been talking about, Maru has extra. And Oliveira not finding an awesome opportunity for a battle. He is comfortable on 5 bases, actually not using all of his resources at once, but we're kind of in the midst of a tech transition, waiting for starports and upgrades to finish, so it's a little more usual here. And he also has his own surplus of command centers, so finally lifting those on over. But again, you got to feel a little bad for Oliveira here just because we're going into a late game TVT. He does not have an established lead in this game, so he's got to face Maru at his strongest.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of Liberators he's going to have those on Group, and the fact he's been very good about the armory upgrades. He's getting +3 air weapons online, 7 Liberators at once. He's also got that rich gas, which is really cool. I mean, Maru, he wouldn't be Maru if he didn't do things like this, where it's like, that's pretty important. I'll stop you from getting that. Maru, it's pretty difficult for him to take a 6th from this position, and he's got turrets absolutely everywhere. He's getting good upgrades online. Those Liberators might be flying a bit too close to the sun over there, and is Oliveira outstaying his welcome in this fight? He does have a really good number of Vikings, though. Yeah,
Thors are helping, however, so you need to be careful. For Oliveira, he would love those Thors to be dragged into the tank shots, but Maru with the hold position. One Liberator of Oliveira was successful as far as killing the SCVs. 2 of them went down, but I don't think we really care. Well, it's denying mining, actually. That's kind of nice. But there's so many command centers, that's a very temporary thing. More so that Maru is holding the line on what was his 4th, now his 5th, and orbital actually as well. It's still a little sketch because, Oliveira definitely was a little overeager. He pushed those Liberators way too fast. Now he's going to be a little more methodical about it, and it is still scary for Oliveira, but for Maru, sorry, but it just feels like Oliveira is a little too gung-ho every time. Okay, I thought he was going to push in, but Maru was clearly ready for it, and now it's actually Oliveira who's going to have to go ahead and run back home and chill out and wait for a different attack opportunity.
Yeah, and this moment right here, Oliveira hasn't been able to build up that bank, so the Remax potential isn't truly there for him to just whip out anything he wants, and he has to be so careful about this fight. Zombie Grub. That is so many Liberators, but they've gone so far forward here, and those are getting sniped down. Maru really specifically trying to kill the Liberators, but there's too many in the sky. Oliveira taking quite a victory here. Oh my goodness, you see Maru looking a bit more deflated than usual, and Oliveira right here just slamming down on this 5th base of Maru. He did everything right in that fight. It looked crazy, but sometimes you got to be a little bit crazy to take down Maru.
Yeah, Oliveira, Alcyone craziness. It makes sense. He just rushes in here when he sees the opportunity, whether it's Terran Zerg or Protoss. Oliveira finding that opportunity. The Liberators were able to siege up and get so many shots. I think Maru might have anticipated the Thors take care of him a little bit faster, but then the Vikings had to. Of course, that led to them losing the Viking War, and by the time they were taken care of, all of Maru's tanks were gone. That was a bit of a blitz, and Maru is now desperately trying to hold so he can recover his supply.
So some of these little movements here by Maru are really cute, taking down these Liberators here, but make no mistake about it, those big red arrows leading all in Oliveira's direction here. He is absolutely so far ahead income-wise, and not only the 5th base taken out, the 3rd base as well. Maru broke as a joke, and upgrade-wise, very far behind in the sky as well. That is going to be 3-2 upgrades against 0-3 air units. I mean, Maru, I think he's got 1 push left in him, and this, working around here, this is not it. The Liberators greatly positioned, as are the tanks, even landing on these Thors as well. Fireworks galore, the whole army absolutely melting, and Vikings, they love blitzing Thors, and GG, Oliveira gets a map on the board.
Yeah, gets a map, a very important map. That was potentially his last life. He's able to survive for the best of, but it's also great for, hopefully, his confidence, as he was at a 0-5 streak against Maru in this tournament. Thankfully, finally gets a win, and we can see what happens with that, as we will be getting a game 4.
Yeah, that was really cool, actually. Like, I talked about it in the game previously. If you know you're against Mech, you need to get that Sky transition going, and that was the one thing that super helped him out, right? And I think Oliveira, playing Mech there, it was tricky, but he made a lot of good choices. We're going to a short break, guys, but do stay tuned.
I think maybe Protoss can get a good standing. I still think it's unlikely for anyone to win, but I think maybe we have a good chance of making a top 4 this tournament at least, because I think the Protoss players we have representing us at EWC are really strong. This time around, Hero and Classic and Showtime are doing really well. And, you know, not bad. I mean, we're like the lagging region, or we're a little bit lagging compared to Europe and Korea, of course. I feel like only a few of us really have a chance to make it big. The people who are willing to put in full-time effort for a few years or whatever. If I won this tournament, it would confuse me a little bit, but you know, it would be obviously very cool. It would be strange more than anything. I feel like my skill level is not bad, but I'm not a championship quality player yet. Like I don't expect to be able to beat Cyril this tournament, for instance. But you know, if I placed top 4, I would be super happy, for instance.
Oliveira was able to fight back and take us to a game 4 against Maru. Done with the 3-0 sweeps. Oliveira is looking to advance forth in a big upset. Not quite as big as what he did versus him in Katowice, but that's actually an argument that it would be a bigger upset.
Oh, it would be huge. I mean, okay. I can't not forget how big that was for the whole of esports, though. I mean, it was the biggest thing ever at the time. But this tournament right now, the biggest one we've ever had. And the man, the normal man, spawning over here in the bottom left of Crimson Court as a red Terran, it is Oliveira.
And to the top right, as the blue Terran still leading 2-1, he is Vitality's Maru.
It's so hard to kill Maru, and he's so risky with some of the stuff he does as well. And as I say, it's hard to kill Maru. We've got Oliveira with a very unusually placed barracks over here. Now, I'm not entirely sure what this one's going to be about, Zombie Grub, whether he's going to look to place a normal barracks in his main base afterwards, or it's just to trick his opponent a little bit, but a bit weird for me so far.
I am thinking through all of the things that happen in early game TVT. You know, it's like, okay, well, the Reaper gets over, and, you know, Witness get checked back there, or just see, like, oh, no command center, exit factory. Oh my god, there's no barracks. Oh god, it's 2 racks. That might happen. But that's not going to change Maru's plan. Maru's factory expanding, so unless he... even if he SEV scouted, which you don't have to do with this build, you would just be like, oh, okay. That guy got to be a little careful.
Yeah. I mean, like, he's also going for a 2-gas opening, which they both are. I mean, it could have caused panic if it was a 1-racks fast expand with an SCV scout, but it didn't work out. And I mean, if Oliveira's plan is, if you scout me, you're going to worry, but if you don't, I just have a little bit of float over time. So I guess in a weird way, it can make sense here.
Yeah.
But very mirrored builds out of these guys. Building placement, not so mirrored. But it's going to be very similar openings to Game 3 between these two. Nice, honest, no SV scouts, blind, and I like it.
Yeah, the chances of him actually going for a 1-racks expand, you know, it's not medium, perhaps, actually, because it has happened between these two in their best of 5s. Not on Crimson Courts, because they actually have not played it. They would have if yesterday went to Game 5, but it ended shortly before that. So we may also see something a little unique as far as the, I don't know about the build on this map, but we're going to see what it's used like in the early to mid-game TVT. You do kind of have it more like on the middle of the map. It's a shorter map as well. The right and left side aren't used maybe as much until a certain point, so that's where drops can kind of get around and really shock all opponents. So it's going to be perhaps a little different in terms of the pacing of the mid-game, because I also think that Maru might abandon the mech play since it did not work the second time.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And this game, he's going for a Widow Mine early. But I don't hate it on this map, because if he can position that at the top of a ramp or something like that, it can be a little bit annoying. Could also be very good defensively. But this is the first game of the series that Maru is the one that's going for a far more orthodox build for him. Like this, he's getting the medevac out, he's getting the Cyclone, and the shoe is on the other foot. It's now Oliveira going for the Viking on his side of things, playing the more defensive role. So, yeah, what a flipperoo. Yeah,
exactly. It's just the opposite of what happened last time or the game before last. So, yeah, if Maru just boosts on in thinking that he has a clear path to harassment, he's going to be incorrect. And if he boosts too far in, he might actually lose the medevac, and that would be an amazing start for Oliveira, who finally got that map win. And so many other maps at this point, I would say at least 3 of them that he ended up losing were actually very close. So 1 from yesterday, 2 from today, I would say. So, Oliveira is definitely proving that even though, he does not have an overall good record against Maru, he can go toe-to-toe with him given the right situation. The medevac will boost in here. Unfortunately, Cyclone Viking not in the proper position. Widow Mine actually ends up burrowing. That's going to be a little annoying. One shot's the one SCV, but does not splash one shot. You still want to get those SCVs out of there in case they're focus fire down, and that is going to be a defense. But Maru does escape with his medevac.
Yeah, for everything that was going on in this game, Oliveira had 2 Cyclones and a Viking available. And to say Maru gets out of there, gets a little bit of eco damage done and lost mining time, big win for him. Because I actually thought he was running into Surd and Doom there, and I was like, oh my goodness, is Maru crumbling? But well handled, well mitigated with the damage. For a second I was like, oh my god, he's lifting up the Widow Mine. Is this TVP right now? But yeah, he's going to get a little bit of extra damage with this Reaper as well on those soft SCVs. But behind all this, all things said and done, no super edge here for either player. Second starport, I tell you what.
Where
Where is it?
Where is it? Where is she? Okay.
Oh my god, you got me. It was like, oh my god, angry girl, but I love it. I love it. But that starport, definitely not one that Oliveira wanted to get scouted this time. Third CC, nice and early for Maru, and you can tell that Maru does want to find out what's happening. At least gets to see 2 Ravens at the front there, so it's like, all right, it's kind of a normal build, right? Getting...
Okay.
Oh my god, you got me. It was like, oh my god, angry girl, but I love it. I love it. But that starport, definitely not one that Oliveira wanted to get scouted this time. Third CC, nice and early for Maru, and you can tell that Maru does want to find out what's happening. At least gets to see 2 Ravens at the front there, so it's like, all right, it's kind of a normal build, right? Getting into Vikings very quickly is Maru. I think he's also gone for 2 Ravens, both getting the upgrade for the Ravens, meaning they can Interference Matrix as well.
This is pretty cool. Oliveira bringing out the 2 starport, swapping it over as well, so he gets right into the reactored Vikings, despite, initially, of course, using it for a tech lab. And Maru is in the dark to a degree. You're going to figure out, that third CC is kind of weirdly late. What's going on here? Is he going to figure out that it is this two starport play? They've both been doing it to each other in multiple maps over multiple series at this point. But it's most commonplace on site Delta. So seeing it on the other maps would be a little weird. Marine's going to scout a couple of Vikings heading on over, and the rest of the army is attached with it.
I don't want to say that was enough of a tell, but Maru, it's enough of a tell, isn't it? Like, he knows something's coming over. Didn't want to take that third immediately there. He got scanned, and then he saw his opponent moving out. Now, your opponent would only move out if they thought they could take what they see. So Maru with the fortitude there, he's like, okay, let's sit back a little bit. He's even getting a Marauder out here, which is super strange.
That forward third CC is awfully scary, but if he does keep his aggression, he doesn't get broken, especially quickly, then I guess it will pay off. Oh boy, all right, already on top of the production of Maru. Very important production as well, grabs a Viking too, before Maru can land it, and that starport actually is gonna die.
Yeah.
It's just dead.
That is really bad. Oh, he actually lets it live.
Well, okay, all right, he's going to prioritize attacking into Maru's natural. He sees the opportunity. Those missile turrets far too late to help out. The tanks were disabled, and Maru has just crumpled against this.
He has. This was like a hot knife through butter here, Zombie Grub, and Oliveira, he smells blood in the water here. He's got 4 tanks that can't be touched right now. So much chaos. Maru lifting up everything that he has. He's doing a Viking drop with Ravens on the other side of the map. Where were they for this push?
Exactly. He didn't realize what was happening until too late, so he has units going over that would be mostly harassment, although Vikings are very good at killing SDVs, compared to, of course, Oliveira's full main army, marching into the natural, marching into the main base, killing that third CC. I'm afraid that Maru's little side attack here just can't do equivalent damage.
So he has Stim, he's killing a lot of SCVs.
Yes.
Supplies are sort of equalizing. Sees 2 Liberators flying out, and that would definitely help with this push. The Ravens did die, right? I think one of the turrets finished up and got the kills on them, so those Liberators are pretty crucial for busting through. I tell you what, this is getting spicy. I still give the edge massively to Oliveira, especially with that third base that he got up, and it was like amidst his rally point as well, so kind of crazy by him. Maru losing every orbital besides this one, and this is one of the saddest games for Maru. Like, he got so caught out by this.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of more SCVs dead for Oliveira. He is going to be at almost 0 economy, but he believes he can win the game. SCVs pulled in, Oliveira lands his Vikings, and Maru just simply does not have enough army to hold. We are getting a game number 5 between Oliveira and Maru.
Oh my goodness. I tell you what, the fact that Oliveira made some of the plays he did there, and the fact that Maru flew down the map, because 2 Ravens and 4 Vikings, in fact, it was even more Vikings that ended up over there, I swear, but the fact that he did that was one of these risky plays that just like did not pay off. Because before, on a site Delta, was it, where he looked like a genius moving down the map? Or maybe Ocean Board. Either way, he looked like a genius when he made that move, but it was risky. This time, absolutely bit him in the butt.
Yes, 100%. What a decision there from Oliveira, not just with the build order, which was successfully hidden as well, but then to redirect his attention, you know, that frankly, that was so freaking close that if he had, quote unquote, wasted tank shots on a starport to successfully kill it, that could have been a very different game.
It really could have. Like, you can make so much happen with 2 Ravens. That's either 4 Matrixes that go down. He had 4 tanks with that push, which we saw. He pulled all the SCVs, obviously. He really knew it was crazy. And he knew it was coming as well. Maybe not to the degree that it came, but geez Louise. 5th map between these two. This is not something I would have anticipated given their previous series. I know it was a 3-0, and Oliveira obviously had big opportunities, especially in map 1. But the way this series started off, it was the Maru show. Yeah,
absolutely. And his steamroll was stopped by this man in the bottom right, bringing it to the final map, Golden Aura. And he is the Red Terran, Weibo Gaming's Oliveira.
And spawning over in the top left-hand side, as our blue Terran, it is Maru.
So same map set, slightly different order compared to yesterday. They were also going to play Golden Aura, but Oliveira couldn't quite get there. The winner, again, to remind you guys, will go on to the second versus second place match, where they would face the winner of Serral versus Hero to advance to the Final 4. The loser goes to the knockout bracket, where it kind of resets to a degree. You do get better seeding, so that is very, very important, but then you're back at the beginning of a bracket where it's only best of 3s. It's a lot more volatile.
It's so grueling as well. The past 3 days working all the way to get here, maybe to only start in round 1 kind of thing. Like, it's so brutal. Granted, your seed will be a lot better, so you will potentially get some of the weaker players of the championship level players here, which is something, but still 3 days work potentially to just kind of fall flat at this point. But these guys, they've pushed each other to what is one final map, and here they really have to bring their absolute best here to the table to get a chance to play the winner of Serral and Hero to move on to the top 4, guaranteeing $80,000 and a chance to win even more.
Yeah, they just want to have that slightly advanced, I suppose, possibility compared to dropping all the way down. That's what this is going to be for. Now we do have Oliveira going for a factory expand. Maru's command center already on location. So this is something that maybe you do SEV scout with to make sure you're not being cheesed. That might have been what Oliveira wanted with that kind of barracks positioning last game, but it just, no scout happens. It didn't really matter. And now we got a, kind of classic setup. Command center versus the slight more aggression of Oliveira. I'd love to get a couple of SCVs just to make up for the command center differences, but it usually is only 2 or 3 SCVs that you have to get to make up for that difference.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world, but Maru definitely has dodged a bit of a bullet here, because if you go for the build he went for, the gas first expansion, getting a Reaper out, not scouting at all, well, if he happened to go up against himself, where he would 2-rax him, he'd be dead.
Yes,
but Oliveira doesn't seem like the true 2-raxer in this matchup. Very confident in his own fundamentals. And so far, they've preferred the 2 starport builds, honestly.
Yes. There's been a lot more 2 starport builds in this series than most. It's honestly usually just site delta. But bringing it out when it actually makes either, well, I'm not going to say it never makes sense, but just bringing it out when it's kind of more orthodox and when it's also unorthodox. And it's had varying results as well. Will we see it again on Golden Aura, which is really one of the most typical maps you can get to. This is where I do kind of lean to Maru, but Oliveira, that's kind of his thing, is that anytime someone's like, I don't know, Oliveira, you're like, of course you're very good, but are you good enough to actually beat him? Are you good enough to beat him in a series best of 5? I don't know, but he proved us all wrong in Katowice. He's looking to prove us wrong again in this series as he pushed Maru to the limits and is now the first one to get aggressive. Oliveira's medevac heading across.
Maru's build's really clean, by the way. Like, he's got the 3rd base ongoing. By the time this medevac does turn up with 2 cyclones, his 2nd cyclone pops. So he has all the answers to deal with this. He's got a 3rd already started. The depot gets to see what's going on. Has to be careful in these micro wars, obviously. That medevac getting a little bit low there. Now Maru can heal up, but Oliveira getting the scout. That's quite a big deal. Now he knows what he's up against, and it's like, do I go for a third myself? Where do I put it? On location, maybe? No, no, no. He's just happy to play a safe game, realizing that maybe tech-wise he's going to be a little bit ahead. And honestly, like you said earlier, it's not the end of the world. Like, you get 2 or 3 extra SCVs, but these little edges do mount up at this level.
They do. I mean, really, Oliveira wanted to get something. Even the SCVs pulled off the mineral line would have been nice, and to get absolutely nothing, that means he's behind by basically 4 SCVs. It's 3.5, but whatever. So he's gonna have to find something else as the game goes on, which is extremely possible. I mean, he could find more, the cheeky drop, right? Then suddenly 12 SCVs go down. But he is kind of acknowledging, as you said, economy's not gonna be as great. I am heading into the mid game against Maru, but maybe I got some technology on my side, or maybe he'll change something up as far as the compositions go. They both are going to go for barracks and stim for both parties too.
Yeah, it's all very mirrored at this point. You could say Maru is a little bit ahead in the production tab-wise, and we're going to see engineering base drop down for Maru very soon for Oliveira as well. And there you have it. I mean, what a way to test each other in this 5th and final game between the two.
Yeah, units tab, I mean, they're so similar. 2-2 Ravens, 1-1 tank, 3 Cyclones for Oliveira, but that's not my favorite lead you know, as the game goes on.
No, I mean, they can be sort of useful for maybe picking up a drop or having a little bit more map control, but in a matchup here where map control means absolute diddly squat in this situation, yeah, I kind of prefer Maru's situation here. It's really going to come down to big execution on both sides. You can't really say anything else in this situation.
Yep. Scan confirms that Maru is going to be playing Bio this time around, and a scan from Maru confirms that Oliveira is still going to be playing Bio, and did get that 3rd CC, which the Helnin's just chuckling to himself while he blocks it. Anything a little more, right? Oliveira did catch up on the SCVs as they both are, flifted and floated over and whatnot, so maybe more like 2.5 SCV lead for Maru at this point. It really is going to come down to the execution. How do the battles go? Who gets the better tank shots? Who gets the better concave? That's what it's going to be about.
I actually like what Maru's doing with his 2 Cyclones, though, here. Like, because, as you said, they don't really have too much to do as the game draws on. Getting them into the main, one thing they do very well is take down SCVs, as long as they get lock-ons on them, which Maru was maybe a little bit piggledy-wiggledy over there with those, but Armory does start up for Maru, pretty well timed by him. Oliveira has definitely situated himself well on that 3rd base. SCV count absolutely mirrored here, does pick off one of these Cyclones on the right side. I mean, Maru's being a little bit cheeky here with these drops. It's got to be said.
Yeah, he didn't have any of the surprising snipes that Oliveira did to Beyond yesterday, or that Maru managed to get versus Oliveira either. That was about as close as we're going to get, apparently. But we got more drops, and they are, well, this is where 3 Cyclones might be useful. 2 medevacs heading right to 3 Cyclones. One might die before fully unloading. The other one should, and then it's like, is that really worth going into the... Oh, no, he's going to do it. Okay. Yeah, one does die before fully unloading, but the rest unload. That will take out the glass cannons that are Cyclones. And Oliveira's reinforcements not going to be enough. Actually going to bleeding out Marines here. Ravens come back to help out. This would be where you're worried about more so what could be on the front lines, because you know you've got this handled as Oliveira.
Yeah, getting that reactor on the starport's annoying, because... Yes. You never use another building to then make it for that. You're going to have to stop your medevac production or your Viking production, but nice catch by Oliveira, getting those units out on the retreat. So this was not for free by any means from Maru, but Maru just using this time here to just scan, see what he's up against. Oliveira scanning at the exact same time as well, seeing that 4th base go down there at the 3rd. Oliveira has no idea where this army is. One thing that he did forego was a sensor tower. He sees a little glimpse of this medevac, but not quick enough before that 4th is cancelled.
At least it is a cancel, not a kill. We have Oliveira thinking that he can actually get on top of this. His own Ravens came from behind. Maru's tanks are out of the equation, and Oliveira has pounced on Maru. The tanks are going to get destroyed. The lone one not able to stem the blood flow. It also goes down. It allows the retreat of Maru's Marines, but Maru is going to have to be satisfied mostly with the canceled 4th command center.
That was such a good trade for Oliveira. He really mitigated those tanks so damn well, and despite all his orange Marines, he just charged in. And Maru, it was like that moment in Lord of the Rings, you know, where you see them charging and they you're like, yeah, I'm going to own them. Then they keep on charging. You're like, oh dear, oh my goodness, backed off. But Oliveira, or rather Maru, he's not just going to sit down and take it. He's going to find another way in. And remember, they both took out each other's Ravens. So if you can get an aggressive position with siege tanks, so much harder to break.
Yeah. The only thing Maru got from that was a canceled 4th command center that was basically just built. So it's also not really a heavy time investment. Obviously, you lose 100 minerals, but that's acceptable. Maru's 4th command center is finished, but it's got to head over, so that's going to be basically even there. We got 6 tanks to 3. That was really the biggest loss for Maru in that engagement. So even though he wasn't going to die or anything, you know, only Marines escaping, not ideal, not able to get a Doom drop into the main either, as Oliveira was all over it. And it's Oliveira also with a little pack of Marines, but as you're pointing out, the center towers, Maru gets them much quicker, so he does feel safe on 3rd and 4th base right now.
He certainly does. He's going to pick off the sensor tower as soon as it came up as well. Oliveira is up to 8 barracks, by the way. Nice and early, almost Beyond-esque. I mean, everything about that production tab is Beyond-esque. +3 armor starting before, +3 weapons. But honestly, Oliveira's in the little lead of this game. It's not much, but the fact that he shut all that down, he's got a tank lead as well. You can do so much with the tanks. He's got these upgrades ongoing as well. They've both been so good about starting the plus on time until this +3 weapons is missing.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye on that just to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah, unfortunately, Oliveira was a little late to that in a previous game. He did eventually remember to get it, but it's getting a little farther away, and now Maru is pressuring him as well, which is going to distract him from remembering, like, oh, hey, did I actually start that +3 attack? Did I have enough resources when I pressed the button? This actually could be it. Okay. A little less worried. Honestly, Maru at 3-3 versus just 2-3 would have been a scary, scary late game.
Oh.
Now this is going to be a good catch. Oliveira with the majority of his army catching Maru's little slice of his, and Maru is forced to retreat all the way back to his 4th base.
And look how much red Terran that is charging across the map, and oh my goodness, he was really feeling it there, wasn't he? But getting in this position here, he can take down that South CC, potentially the more, but there's so many tanks, so much bio just getting on top of all those tanks, taking them all out here, Zombie Grub.
That is insane, but Maru might have actually made the right move right there. The tanks were sieged too late, and Oliveira's Marines could not respond in time to help save any tanks. Maru took them out quickly enough to save most of his Marines, certainly enough to then take out Oliveira's, and Maru had his tanks untouched in that fight. Maru now with an almost 20 supply lead. His upgrades are also a little bit faster, and that could kick in for this upcoming battle.
We are watching a Seesaw World Championship right now. It is very back and forth between these two. Who is ahead right now? It is definitely Maru after taking the advantage in the tank count in that fight. I think he kept most of his alive as well. None of them were really under threat here, so definitely flip-flopped. Maru with a big SCV lead as well, I want to say, a good 10, but honestly, all these numbers, once it gets to this kind of area, it's very hard to break through. I say that as they're both just going to absolutely batter heads here. But Maru has so many tanks that back line, taking out the last siege tank there in this fight for Oliveira, and Maru is going to use that to just keep on pushing forward. Yeah,
that +3 armor finishes for Oliveira, but 3-3 is about to finish for Maru. He's continuing to push forth. Oliveira rallying into death at this point, in a desperate attempt to stop Maru from advancing onto his own 5th and possibly his 4th as well. Because remember, Oliveira did manage to snipe one of Maru's bases, but if Maru can snipe this one and then also hammer that planetary, Oliveira will remain in a terrible position. He's going to pull the boys. He's desperate. He's going to jump on top of these tanks while he thinks that he can. Maru, though, still with the supply lead, and Oliveira's last-ditch attempt to break out of this was a disaster.
It absolutely was. Even though Ravens just flew in there to their death, you can see it on his face. That was not it. I did not break that man, and he's showing me how a push should be done. Calm and calculated with the siege tank positioning. Might lose the siege tank there, but Maru is pushing in, and he's done so much damage, and he doesn't even need to do this. He's ready for the next stage of the game. He's got 3 starports up and running. Look at the macro behind this as well, keeping the resources so damn low and taking a 5th and a 6th base while this was happening.
All right, so Maru does scan the other 5th. Oliveira was kind of getting away with that a little bit. So if he had been able to get away with more with it, this could have been a ticket back in. But now that it's scanned, it's going to be another point of defense that Oliveira might not be able to get to. He's got a 6th also heading over, but Maru actually already replanting his own bases. As you pointed out, having that superior technology, at least the upgrades have evened up, but now it's about the air game, which, I mean, Oliveira certainly has been testing Maru's late game prowess, but it feels like Maru's got the reins on this game.
Yeah, Maru, it's just, there's no panic with these pushes. I say that, but Oliveira is so quick to pounce here. Going to try and take out a few tanks. He's got a lot of tanks in the high grass there. That might have been a little bit tricky for Maru to see initially, but does scan. He's like, no, 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 I'm not going to play it too crazy here, because this game is still on a knife's edge. If one fight goes awry and all the tanks are taken out, your opponent can pounce, especially in the position that they're both in here. They have to be so careful.
Exactly. Speaking of pouncing, Maru not having his tanks sieged up. The other tanks were actually going to try and siege away differently, right? And they weren't sieged up at all, forced to just entirely retreat. Oliveira finding some position right now. Now he's the one back on the offensive, heading towards Maru's 5th base. Now Maru is getting +3 attack at this point on his siege tanks. He does have his own base off to the right side, but we are back to where we were 2 fights ago. Oliveira is looking for the kill here. He's going to move in. The Raven's actually getting torn down right now, but Maru's supply holding strong. He will not be broken without attack.
No, and the Vikings are really crucial here as well, aren't they? Because there's no real answer to the Vikings. I want to say, that's so many tanks, Maru. You can't do it, and he realizes it maybe a moment too late here. Oliveira flipping on back here. They are both just charging at one another, just giving it everything they have. Oliveira with a 20 supply deficit, though. Maybe won't even win that little tank battle there. They're both producing everything they can here. Maru still with an eco edge. 6 SCVs at a time for Oliveira, realizing he's a bit wounded, but macro on the side of Maru is just absolutely insane.
Exactly. It looked like Oliveira was finding some battles, basically, you know? Like, he even looked like it was maybe an advantage in the actual battle itself. Maru's supply just held on strong. I will say that, you know, additionally, you really do have to highlight that Oliveira reset the Raven count, so there is that, but because Maru's economy is strong, he continues to make 2 Ravens at a time. It is back up to a good number, and that is still the biggest problem for Oliveira in this game. His time to be the 8-Raxer, right, is dwindling. Maru's getting the better army and holding on to a good number of bases while he's at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Oliveira, he's climbing in supply again, so he's not making any of the wrong moves. It's just he's kind of stuck in that Beyond-esque spot, right? Just on 8 barracks, a couple of factories, and now Liberators are joining the fray. You can't take those out. There's tanks on the high ground here, so this is another tool that Oliveira has to worry about. Going for Thors in this kind of situation, I mean, that's pretty nuts and kind of desperate as well. They're not a unit that does well against everything else. Exactly.
Oliveira is on the run. Maru knows that he is in trouble, and he wanted to kind of try and pounce on him. Oliveira ran away until he could get a great arc, and he does, but his tanks aren't involved in the fight, so our Marine's going to be good enough. The answer is going to be no. Maru still with a 20 supply lead. Now the tanks completely undefended without those Marines. Hot pick up on at least 4 of them, but is that going to be enough? Oliveira in a familiar position, back on his side of the map, down 50 supply.
That tank had 13 kills, by the way. I was doing such a good job for Oliveira, but look at the positioning of Maru. He knows he's got control. I think Oliveira's feeling the noose tighten over here. And these Liberators, well, they shut down this base single-handedly. I think Maru's busted through here. 4 Ravens at a time. That is insane how much income he has.
Oliveira just caught without the technology, wasn't able to make a chaotic enough game that the Ravens weren't used well, that, you know, he could just kind of run around and confuse Maru. Now, Maru did the direct attack, won out the fights, and now Oliveira is desperately trying to get a little run-by going, but look at how much army is left behind there. Oliveira forced to retreat. That tank's like, yeah, I definitely shouldn't be here. Let's skedaddle. Maybe that bought me a little bit of time. Maybe Oliveira can get maxed out again, but his maxed out army is not equivalent to Maru's.
No, Maru's got better tech. More of it, 6 command centers at once as well. I was like, where did his minerals just go? That is exactly where they went, and he's still rich. Oh my goodness, and Oliveira, he's really struggling to get anything together, and I'm not surprised why. Maru on the pounce, and yet again, and here another base going to be forfeit, and that is with so many SCVs on it as well. And he's not just going to take one base here, Zombie Grub, and that is the face of a man that is feeling the pressure.
Yeah, he knows that he is without any options. He's on his side of the map. His army is worse. He's going to take one last fight, but the supply really does tell the tale. Oliveira pushed Maru to the limit to a game 5, but it is going to be Maru advancing to the second place match.
I think that's the most reaction I've seen out of Maru after this series, and that was just pure relief there. 2-0 up to make it very close, and quite a darn good back and forth final game between these two. That was a great TVT here. Well played to Maru, and he goes on to face the winner of Serral versus Hero, at a chance to guarantee himself not only $80,000, but a chance for so much more and top 4 at the Esports World Cup StarCraft II.
Exactly. He's got to be excited about the possibility, but his second place opponent is not going to be a slouch.